Hey guys, welcome back to Just One More Hobby, the Flyer CGO Workshop Edition, where we're talking about servo testing. As we're beginning the 60% cap, I really want to bring you guys along on this testing journey. This is something, like I've said in the past, I've done this stuff before as I started an aircraft to see if the servo would work for me, and I really want to bring you guys along with this journey. This is not a brand war. These are all great servos. All great companies. But I really want to show you guys some of the testing because there's things that surprise, and that's why we do this. To make sure that we don't get the surprise after all this hours and hours and hours of work designing an aircraft to then not have it work the way that I want it to. So, yes, I spend way too much time in the baseline testing, but that's what we do. So, with that said, to start this off, RF meter. All these servos tested really well on the RF, but I can't really show it because my new LEDs hover my room at 40 to 50. Now, if I shut the lights off, you're not going to see what I'm up to. But the wire, the copper wire tested out, I've done these things before. The other thing that's probably going to get asked right off the beginning is where did I come up with how much weight is on the tip of the aileron? Well, it's 12.8 ounces. This is all tried to be based off of what these servos are capable of. And yes, I've got servos in here that are 600s, and I've got servos that are in here that are 1,000 ounces. We're trying to figure out how a 100-pound airplane is going to affect at 100 miles an hour. So these are my basic stupid math that I've come up with. I'm not a mathematician. If there's a mathematician out there that would love to work with me and I could give him some measurements of what I'm doing and calculate it even more, it would be really appreciated. Please reach out. I would love the information. I would love to get more precise with what I'm doing. With that said, again, this is not a brand war. This is me testing. I do know that I've pushed a lot of things to the limits. The 2-inch arm, the 2 inches from the bevel. I know we're pushing it, but that's what we're trying to figure out here. So hopefully you guys really enjoy this, and let's get to testing. Okay, next here is the FrSky 5405 against the Hitec 9380 and also the 81. The 81, the only difference is the metal case. So FrSky to start here, 0.05 on the amps, 36-inch long extension. On the sweep, the highest I ever see is 0.44. Loaded test, extension, the highest it'll get to is 0.84. Okay, let's move over here to the Hitec and do the same test. Hitec, hovering 0.02. The highest I see on a 72-inch long extension is 3. Now, loaded test. This one can come up to 2.3 amps under a loaded test. Okay, so now let's do a next side-by-side comparison. Next is the speed test unloaded Hitec against FrSky. The Hitec is having a real problem on a 72-inch extension that it just continually flutters. If we eliminate the extension, this is really an unfair comparison here in between these two guys, still continues to flutter. So It is not the extension causing the flutter. Let's put the extension back in. Let's load these both up, start them back up, and go from there. Okay guys, as we start up this next test, loaded FrSky against Hitec. I actually think I said 36-inch long extension when I was talking about that. All these are the Radical RCA copper wire 72-inch long extension so that we have no variations. Sorry if I misspoke there. Also, before we start this, the Hitec 9380, I always solder in my pads. This fluttering that we are seeing is not because of lack of a pad. I also wish I had the video on this, but I think I'll add the pictures of the servo damage that we're seeing. We are shearing the center pin in between the gears. They're shearing and then they're locking the servo right up. So I've done this comparison before and I've broken a servo, so this is a new servo again. So with that said, let's go ahead and start this load test. So centering is really struggling in the Hitec 9380, and it flutters through the whole sweep. Now, if we're pretending this is in the air, right? That's the reason we push on the top of these. It does stop, okay? So I think if this has got constant pressure on it, I don't think we're going to see that same flutter bounce. This is adding weight to the tip is also very different than I think what we're going to see in flight. But it helps us do a speed test, an amp test under load. So that's definitely something that's, some people are going to say, hey, that's not a fair comparison what we're doing. Hopefully you guys can understand why I'm doing a loaded test. So with that said, let's do a speed test. As you guys can see, my eyes tell me that the FrSky is kind of winning that speed test. This is at 7.7 volts of the battery right now. So with that said, okay, as we were doing this last comparison against the FrSky and the Hitec, the speed, Nicole says, no, I think they were exactly the same. So what we've done is we've eliminated the extensions on both these. They're just straight. I want to do this race one more time to see what you guys are seeing here. So let's go ahead and start this back up. No extensions. With no extension, the Hitec's winning in speed. But it also has this interesting bounce thing. Let's do a 3/4 race. I don't want to say which one I think's faster. Yeah, I do. No extensions. The Hitec is faster when it comes to no extensions. I thought I was seeing the FrSky faster with the extensions. With that said, that's what we're talking about, guys. There's always going to be my eye and your eye. And if I'm trying to not be biased here, I'm trying to figure out testing for my aircraft. I am not brand picking here. That's very clear. So I want to make that upfront and clear here with this test, because Nicole saw something different. I know you guys are going to see something different. Comment, call me an idiot. I don't mind. So thanks, guys. Okay, so the Savox Servo 2290 here in the test board. Start up. 0.3 is unloaded. 0.8. Now, when we press load on this, This servo can come up to 2.9 on the amps. Yeah, 2.9. Okay, loaded Savox 2290. Holding is 0.90, almost a full amp. Moving, the highest I see is 1.78 on the amps. So, really good. Again, pushing, acting like load, you know, airflow. 2.9, 3.1. So, really good. Next test, FrSky 6505H. Hover 0.07 amps. Sweep 0.63. Loaded to see if it ups the amps, 0.51. So under an amp on this servo. This servo does get a weird little hiccup every once in a while from the amp meter. Loaded test. This servo is so quiet. It's insane. Loaded 1.0, well, 0.10. Highest spike that I can see is 1.3 amps. Again, it's super cool when you're starting to put a load against it, how the amps drop. So this is going to be a little bit more efficient in the air. Okay, let's remove the amp meter. Let's do a side-by-side comparison race. Okay, let's do a race, 2290 against the FrSky 6505. Soft starts, centers are matched, bottoms are matched, tops are matched. Very, very comparable. We are at 7.7 volts. This is something I like to do to see who centers the best or who bounces just a little bit. You're going to notice that the Savox does bounce. These are also both on 72-inch long extensions. Very good. I'm struggling here, guys. Who is the fastest out of these two? With that said, Savox is a little bit more power hungry. Really good servo. Very well tested by a lot of friends. FrSky servo here, new to the market. The guys that have been testing them have been really impressed with it. Man, this decision just keeps getting harder. Okay, next comparison here is going to be the JR and the Savox. To start off, the JR on a 72-inch long extension. Remember that the JR does have an F-bus, S-bus protocol through the JR radios. So this test is a little flawed. The JR servo is definitely going to have a little bit of a hop because of the amp meter. We do know that. So let's just start there. Really nice soft start. 0.19 on hover. Loaded. The highest I see is 2.6. When you load this JR servo, you can spike this thing all the way up to 4.5, 5.1 amps. So very power hungry, especially in flight. Hopefully you guys can see why I'm giving you a neutral and then also a characteristics of how many amps you're going to see during flight. So let's load this up. We'll start up the Savox and the JR and have a comparison race. Okay, speed test loaded. Savox 2290 against the JR. Again, long extensions. Let's see how we do. You'll see that loaded, that's going to need a little bit of sub trim. So let's go ahead and add that. Just trying to make sure that we are giving as close as we can of an even race. Endpoints are very well matched. Okay. Pretty well matched. Speed test. Really good. But you're going to see something, how this JR keeps coming out of sync here. And it does do the most amount of bouncing. Horn is tight. Pinch lock is tight. Ball end is tight. Let's re-sub trim. Let's recheck the endpoints. Okay. 72-inch long extension. JR keeps coming out of whack a little bit, more than everybody else, and it bounces a lot. Everything is tight. We're going to eliminate. We are going to eliminate the extension and try this one more time. Just because now this is still Savox 2290 and the JR no extension, acting like F bus or S bus. The servo just died. That's my durability test, guys. There you go. And okay, guys, as we start this test against the JR servo against the new FrSky 6505, torque specs really show to be about the same. Speeds show the same. Both of these servos can do F-bus, which would be an absolute perfect thing for this 60% aircraft that I'm doing. I do know that durability on this has been well proven, but I really do like their telemetry in the in the FrSky servo. So I'm really torn in between these two servos right here. With that said, let's go ahead and do a loaded speed test. Let's see what we see. Both of them have soft start. JR's is a little slower with the Hitec radio. You're going to notice something. The JR servo on the 72-inch long extension, again, has that same center stop. It's fluttering. It's just not hitting center as precise. But speed-wise on these two servos, man, they're close. I can't really tell you which one's a real clear winner in this test. So with that said, let's go ahead and shut this down and we'll give you guys a Final results, my feelings. Remember, these are my feelings. These are what I'm seeing in my testing. Again, I like every one of these companies. I think that they would all do a wonderful job in a 40%er. As we finish this testing of these servos, really want to go through my opinions and some comparisons and talk about a few. Starting off with the Hitec 9380, the 9381s, I do have to be open that 5 years ago, before I moved and kind of disappeared for a while, I was a Team Hitec pilot. Absolutely love the Hitec radio, love their servos. I have broken these center pins on 50% aircraft flying extremely hard 3D. With that said, I didn't really expect to see me breaking one on the test board because the weight that I'm calculating is not beyond the limits, but we did. We broke them, okay? But that's why we're doing this testing. So I don't think you guys are going to see this issue, and I have called Hitec recently to ask if they've done any updates because it has been a while, and they have not. I've heard them say many a times that I'm the only guy breaking them like this. So I do know that I'm pushing this servo to the limits. I've been extremely happy with this servo, even with the pins breaking. I mean, it's been a very favorite of mine. So changing radio systems, changing servos, I can't say enough, like, guys, this is a great servo. I'm just pushing it maybe a little too far. Okay, that's it. The next one here in my lineup is the Savox 2290. Been very impressed with the durability on this servo, the amp draw of this servo. Lots of guys that I talk to, friends of mine, love this servo, and I can see why. This has been very good. The next servo, JR 8911BL. I have a lot of friends that love this servo that have never been able to break one, but I guess I'm pushing things way too far. I do know that they didn't want to see it on a 2-inch arm and a 2-inch surface measurement, but I'm building a 60% aircraft. Again, this is why I've got to test this. So I did break it. I do think that some of the problems that we saw with extensions are going to be solved with FS bus, but not the servo I'm going with on this project. So that leaves me with the two FrSky 5405 and the 6505. The 5405, I've opened it up, has super large pins, durability testing, centering, amp draw. That's an extremely impressive servo. Really like it. The 6505, love the centering. Maybe was a little bit slower than the Savox 2290, but the amp draws are something that I'm really after. When you're running 18 servos in an aircraft, I don't want to put, you know, two 12-volt batteries out of my car in that airplane to be able to get through a flight. So amp draws very, very important to me. I also really like the FrSky servos through an FrSky radio where I can pull telemetry, heat, amps from each servo. FrSky also has a little bus board so that I could get that same basic telemetry off of the bus board for the Savox servos, which I think is really neat. He's scratching at the door.
Uh-huh. And there's a shaggy farm dog that wants in because it's cold outside.
Hi, buddy.
He doesn't care that we've been videoing all morning.
Come here, buddy. Here, let's get you in this video. Let's just put you in. All right.
dirty shaggy dog.
Okay, as we end this video, you can see that we've picked a shaggy farm dog. He's my buddy. I love him. We have picked the FrSky 6505, and we're also going to go ahead with the FrSky radio. The reason I picked the FrSky radio over the Futaba and the JR is telemetry. I think it's really important for me to have telemetry on this aircraft. It's going to help me enhance my airplane to be able to watch those little things to get it better. I want to experiment with some counterbalances on my ailerons to see how much that helps on amps. And so there's a lot of reasons why I do want that telemetry data, not just to nerd out. With that said, I really appreciate you guys joining, subscribing, and thanks again, guys, so much for being a part of this.